Welcome to the first episode of F-Zero GX Time Attack History. Here's a little backstory. F-Zero GX was first released in Japan on July 25, 2003, and later to North America on August 25, 2003, and Europe on October 31, 2003. The Sega-owned dev team Amusement Vision, known for their history with the Daytona and Super Monkey Ball series, introduced the world to one of the fastest and most technical racing games of all time, F-Zero GX. Today we're taking a look at the progression of one of the most notorious F-Zero GX tracks, Cosmo Terminal Trident. There are a couple different gameplay categories that players have used throughout the years. Today we'll be focusing on historically the most competitive category, 100% max speed. The oldest known record for Trident was set just a couple weeks after the US release of F-Zero GX. American player midiman showcases the power of the AX vehicle Fat Shark, characterized by incredible boost power and a solid top speed, set a relatively strong 250.808 on September 22, 2003. This run is also one of the first ever recordings of a dangerous technique known as shift boosting, which involves going off and immediately back onto the course for an extra burst of speed. Given that the game and this technique were fairly new, midiman focuses more on clean driving and goes fairly light on the shift boosts, which will later be used to blow the course wide open. Just a couple of months later, the legendary Japanese player Mumu makes his claim on the Trident world record with a 234.969 on December 26, 2003. Mumu was an avid player of F-Zero's previous game, F-Zero X on N64, and picked up GX on the Japanese release of the game. Mumu was a powerful force around the game's release and went on to pioneer most of the max speed techniques still used today. This run showcases the technique Momentum Throttle. This technique, commonly referred to as MT, would prove to be incredibly important in F-Zero GX since it's the fundamental way of maintaining speeds above the regular top boosting speeds. This technique involves letting go of the accelerator when going above a certain speed threshold. The inclusion of Momentum Throttle after shift boosts allows for significant preservation of the high speed from the shift boosts, and although this run is similarly light on the shift boosting, this inclusion of MT is a key part in how Mumu was able to save over 15 seconds on midiman's early run. Boost laps are still mainly boosting with clean driving lines and optimal path switching, pick up as much energy refill and as many boosters as possible, only going for shift boosts in a few key places such as after the big dive towards the end of the lap. Additionally, Mumu switches to a custom machine called the Dread Wizard FX, which compared to Fat Shark has better shift boosting due to its heavier weight and better speed retention and top speeds due to its lower acceleration. By February 24th of the next year, Mumu would cut 9 seconds off his personal best down to a 225.834. This is due to better time shift boosts and overall vehicle control. 5 days later, he cut another 9 seconds off. Mumu uses a much better opening strategy that lets him get his double shift boost down the right path. Many more shift boosts are used throughout the boost laps as well, saving substantial time over regular boosting. Mumu continued to push his time lower by incorporating more and more shift boosts throughout the run. After setting at 210.440 on March 2, 2004, Mumu takes a bit of a break from the course. In June of that year, German player Uchiha took advantage of Mumu's break to set a new world record of 208.678. Uchiha uses the custom machine Gallon Cannon G4. This is mostly the same vehicle as Mumu's Dread Wizard, but would prove to be the new standard with its lighter engine, which was concluded to be holistically better in terms of acceleration, top speed, and boost strength. July marks the return for Mumu. This time around, he takes Uchiha's vehicle choice and opts for Gallant Star G4 himself, using it to set a new record of 203.001 on July 11, 2004. A small note is that they use different cockpits, thus the name change between Star and Cannon, but it's mostly a pretty insignificant difference. Shift boosting and MT optimization is noticeably better now. Less than 1 week after reclaiming the world record, Mumu achieved sub 2 minutes for the first time ever in max speed with a 157.703 on July 17, 2004. Mumu continues to push his time down another 5 seconds within the next 3 days, down to 152.432. The post-dive section of the track is executed much better, hitting over 4,000 km per hour, taking the final curve with a swift MTS, a drifting technique used in many other courses, but generally avoided in Trident due to its relative lack of sharp turns. On August 4, 2004, Mumu sets a stunning final time of 149.506. This would stand as a masterful Trident time for many years. Shift boosts are now used liberally throughout the opener and boost laps. Minimal boost power is used in order to maintain the higher speed from shift boosting, as having an active boost reduced the amount of speed you get from a shift boost, and at these high speeds, momentum throttling is still faster than boosting. This run would prove to inspire and teach many players for years to come. Iowa is a player from France who started uploading his times in January of the following year. On July 29, 2005, he sets a respectable time of 2:10.595, showing great promise. Over the next year and a half, Iowa continued to improve in the game, eventually becoming the GX Max Speed champion for several years. During this time, he improved his Trident personal best several times, and finally broke through Mumu's 2-year standing record with a masterful time of 1:45.857 on August 19, 2006. This run featured an incredible opening lap, standing as 2 seconds faster than even the current world records opener, and the run held record status for some time. A couple of years went by without any improvements to the Trident record. Mumu had retired, Iowa had retired, and after all, the record was incredible. Additionally, there were 25 other courses for players to work on, and this was a relatively slow couple of years in terms of top player competition. However, in 2007, Japanese player Brave had started time attacking again, and in July of 2009, he set his sights on Trident's world record. He managed to surpass Iowa with a 1:44.262 on July 19, 2009, using exceptional vehicle control and technical skill. Enter a new challenger, Crazy Game Nerd from Norway. CGN had been playing since 2008, primarily focusing on snaking in his early career. He had been one of the best snaking players for years, but in addition to focusing on snaking, he eventually began to dabble in other categories such as story mode and max speed time attack. CGN's gameplay came to be known as being marked by attempting ludicrously difficult and fast strategies, creating blisteringly fast runs even in attempts that looked messy. For now though, he was just getting started. CGN set a time of 1:56.398 on March 18, 2012, but this is just a taste of what was to come. Players often update their personal bests rather cyclically, so as mentioned previously, since there are 25 other courses, it can sometimes be a little while before a player revisits a course. It makes sense that if a player spends about a month working on a course, it can take an average of a little over 2 years to revisit a course. In this case, it took just under 3 years for Brave to come back to Trident, and since his record had not been touched, he had no goal to aim for but his own. He did come up with a new technique though, Boost MT. As hinted at before, while above 2,000 km per hour, boosting with the engine on will still slow you down more than momentum throttling, so players would previously just momentum throttle at those speeds, as it was assumed to be the best option. However, it was discovered that boosting while momentum throttling preserves speed even better than just momentum throttling without the boost. It's a small time save, and due to the high speeds required to perform it, it makes sense that it took nearly 9 years to discover, but armed with this new technique and some better optimization, Brave pushed his record down to a 1:43.075 on June 6, 2012, a solid 1.2 second improvement over his 3-year-old personal best. Brave saved an impressive 3.4 seconds on his own lap 1, but had much poorer boost laps and lost a significant amount of time on them, despite the inclusion of Boost MT. While he left his personal best there, Brave noted in his record description that he wasn't too happy with the run, calling it, quote, terrible running. Remember CGN from earlier? Well, he was back, and ready to prove his expertise at GX beyond just snaking. CGN achieved his first max speed Trident record of 1:42.771 on January 18, 2013, 7 months after Brave's most recent record, and saving a massive 13.6 seconds on his previous personal best from 10 months before. After a mediocre lap 1, losing 0.6 seconds to Braves, he managed to save an impressive 2.1 seconds on lap 2. CGN was on pace for a significant improvement of the record, but a rather disastrous lap 3 from sloppy driving and a few missed shift boosts lost some time to Brave's admittedly already poor lap 3, and CGN managed to finish just 0.3 seconds ahead of Brave's record. It was a new world record, but CGN was far from done. CGN echoed Brave's sentiment of, quote, terrible running, being similarly unhappy with his new record as Brave had been with a similarly paced run, especially because of the poor lap 3. So CGN did what he does best, and continued to work on Trident in the coming weeks, implementing an even harder and faster shift boost strategy to make a truly satisfying run. If 142 was possible with what CGN calls a terrible run, what could he achieve with a good one? CGN busted out just 2 weeks later with an incredible 135.815 on February 2nd, 2013, a massive 7 seconds faster than his old record and pushing his lead above Brave and the rest of the world to 7.2 seconds. He saved time on every lap, 1.6 seconds on lap 1, 1 second on lap 2, and a huge 4.5 seconds on lap 3. He considered his first lap to be terrible, but that must have given him motivation for the rest of the run, because it forced his final lap to be the new fastest lap world record of 28.671. And that's where the record stands today. As it just turned 6 years old by the release of this video, it is the 4th oldest standing GX max speed time attack world record, and that's not for lack of competition. Other players have pushed past CGN's old record of 142 to start to close the gap fairly recently, Brave achieving a 139.226 in November of 2016, R5N achieving a 139.382 in January of 2019, Super Sanic achieving a 141.676 in August 2018, and Velissa achieving a 141.820 in May 2018. Additionally, fast laps have historically been considered more of an afterthought compared to time attack runs, but that's changed rather recently, with players working harder to set up fast laps using strategies that wouldn't necessarily be viable for time attack runs, such as using different vehicles, different energy management strategies, and more difficult techniques, pushing optimization to levels that can better be achieved on their own than in a 3-lap setting. On June 19, 2016, top Canadian player After Dawn set a fast lap of 28.355 seconds, an improvement of just over 0.3 seconds to CGN's fast lap, using a community favorite vehicle, the Hardbanger. Characterized by its nearly unusably stiff handling, massive weight, terrible acceleration, and its hilarious unique name, the Hardbanger actually turned out to be the superior option for Trident fast laps. The physics of GX are pretty complicated, but in general, the high weight grants it more shift boost speed, and its lower acceleration grants it better speed retention. Last but not least, just a couple days before writing this video, on January 26, 2019, the Rising Star R5N set an impressive 27.238 second fast lap record, an improvement of 1.1 seconds. R5N managed to set this with even fewer shift boosts during the lap, only 9 compared to Aftodon's 10, due again to Hardbanger's incredible speed retention and a massive 3,800 km/h entering speed due to a lucky double shift boost at the end of the previous lap.